The Pinball Network is online. Launching.
Pinball Party.
Well, here we go. Episode 11 of the Pinball Party Podcast. You know, I can't wait to add another one to this, if that ever happens, so I can say 11-1. And then from then on, I'll say 11-2, 11-3, 11-4, Kale style, who likes to count in sequence, 11-5, we'll go 11-6, and so on. It's once you get to 120 something, you can't really have fun with it. But who cares, right? This is episode 11. That's way in the future, if it ever happens. If I survive, the way this world is going, I won't. Right? Man, that's cynical. Good way to start this episode out on. Well, hey, thanks for joining me. Thanks for coming back. Thanks for everyone that's wrote in. Too many emails last week. Good problem to have. Thanks for everyone writing. We'll get to a couple of them. But what are we going to talk about this week? Do we have any news? Pinball news. No. Hey, still waiting on Bond. Topper. Everyone's talking about the $2,000 topper again, including myself. Pat Lawler retired from JJP. I guess or retired from pinball in general. There's a little bit of news. There's just not much yet. We're still waiting on releases. We're waiting on people, well, more so locations to get Bond in stock. So to fill that void of what's going on in pinball, people like myself and the guest we have on coming up soon will help fill that void. So if we're not going to talk about news, what will we talk about? We will talk about, well, two things that kind of correlate with each other. A lot of feedback was, you should expand on the figure it out segment. There's a lot of people out there who are either new to the hobby or just really like the whole secondary market thing. So we'll do kind of an expanded figure it out. Other than that, let's just stop with the table of contents just in case I don't get to it. But let's start with things I can talk about. First, listener voicemail. I don't read these just to psych myself up or like, look at how good I am at doing what. No, usually if it somehow involves what we're going to talk about or what we have talked about, feedback on things, it's not just listen to the nice things people have to say about me. Because if I did that, I'd read some other ones that didn't have quite so many nice things to say about me. Let's check in with listener emails. This first one comes from Tanner Walters, who says, in the last episode, you said there wasn't any news. I thought I'd give you something that people might get a kick out of. These are my students reacting to an acrylic pinball machine I built for them. Enjoy. And he sends a YouTube link. It is awesome. It's honestly heartwarming to see these kids react to this this video of very, very impressively built, honestly, literal acrylic pinball machine. The insides have like the guts of a machine, but I'll put the link in the show notes. You should really check it out. I really can't describe it aside from that. And it's a short, quick video. I would also recommend you follow him. He does other pinball stuff. His Instagram is The Pinball Scientist. So you can reach Tanner at The Pinball Scientist. He also makes a Pinball Scorekeeper mod and EM Attract mod for EMs at thepinballscientist.com. Please check out Tanner's work. It's awesome. Thanks for writing in. I really appreciate it. This next one comes from Jeff S. Hey, Jason, heard you were talking about Alien today and we're considering getting one. Go directly to jail, buy the Alien, and fall in love with pinball again. Alien is as much of a cult pin as TBL. It is super fun, coded well, has seamless LCD integration, the best audio of all time, a unique major toy, and great use of lighting. He has the first version of Alien and has even more cabinet and playfield lighting, including the screen on the playfield as you, or if you don't know. Alien is one of the best pins made, and it tends to build a strong parasitic bond with its owner. Nice. Once you join the Alien pinball community, you will probably seek out the first version to celebrate the differences. Yeah, and the last episode when I was talking about how Alien was number one on Pinside, which it is not anymore, surprise, surprise, I was saying that the people I personally know that have owned it like it so much that they want to either get the limited edition or, like he mentioned, the previous version has, which is, similar to like American Pinball, where they kind of, change the what you would expect of a pinball machine, the size and kind of the curves and that stuff. And one last note he made He was one that emailed in a while ago and said I should change the name, which I've been saying I'll eventually change the name to Penis Party Podcast. He said, all right, I have a new program name to run by you, so don't have to call it the Penis Show. He said, figure it out.
Figure it out.
That's what the show is about. Jason's always busy figuring it out. You hope your listeners can figure it out. All right, I'll shut up about the name now that I was able to get the good idea out of my head. You know, that's not actually a bad idea, and you brought too much logic to that idea, so it's not going to work. It makes too much sense. I have people, I've actually gotten a text from someone who picked up a pinball machine from me last week, who, he wouldn't mind me reading this. Let me pull it up. It was on his way. He was about 5 hours away as he was making the drive. He sent me a text, just leaving Quick Trip, don't want to be on the next, quote, figure it out, quote, should be there in a few. So we can, I think, read between the lines and know why he stopped there. But I guess I'm happy and sad to know that the figure it out thing is affecting the way people buy games from me or trade. Actually, maybe it's a good thing. You know, I'm not here just like trying to talk shit about everyone in the secondary market. It's just kind of common courtesy. Anything in the used market, insert a video game system in here. I don't know, or anything. A wooden horse that you want to buy on Craigslist. Yeah, just hey, here's the golden rule: treat others how you want to be treated. Holy shit! Don't be a fuck. Don't be a prick. Be nice to people. Be honest. What a good segue we've accidentally made into this week's expanded version of Figure It Out.
Figure it out.
So I would pick a very specific thing of when buying or selling or communicating about a pinball machine, either on Pinside or Craigslist or Facebook. You know, here's some main do's and don'ts. But some of the questions I got since, the last few episodes, and even actually via Pinside, someone who, maybe I should be charging for this, but I actually, took it as an expression of, I guess, respect for my opinion since I've done it so much, whatever. So someone emailed on Pinside saying, hey, I'm looking to buy this Lord of the Rings. The seller says it's home use only. I was wondering if I could send you a few pictures and some information, get your second opinion on it. It seems like you do this a lot. I'd really appreciate it. I was like, oh, I mean, that's nice of you, but I guess, sure. Can I do some work for you, I guess? And, hey, I was happy to. Looked at some pictures, gave them some opinions on things of, hey, does play count really matter? All these kind of things that people really stress out about. So, disclaimer, there are many, many of those out there that have done this way more and way longer than me. Hundreds of games, flipping everything from EMs to now. I've only been doing this for a few years. I guess the only thing that makes me not special, that's not the right word, maybe somewhat different, is I don't keep games long, so maybe I go through these faster than others. I don't get beaters to fix them up. I don't get LEs to flip them. I don't look for deals just to make money. I'm just, playing games, and sometimes I get bored with them fast, or I get to the wizard mode fast. Toy Story, or something like that, and just move it on. Once you beat a game, sometimes you're sick of it. And in general, honestly, my personality is I just get bored easy with stuff. You didn't ask, but when I get into something, I put 100,000% into something to the point. Maybe it's borderline obsessive, but it's a double-edged sword. It makes me good at things, but also makes me absorb information or whatever really fast. And okay, I'm over that. That's boring. Even though the week before I'm like, this is the best thing of all time. Oh my God, I can't wait. It's gonna change my life forever. I'm always gonna have it. Next week, get the fuck out of here. So I go through games a lot, which gives me an interesting perspective because I've had people so many times reach out, Craigslist, Pinside, you name it, of if I bought a game a couple weeks later, they notice it for sale again. Usually the same price they sold it for, give or take $50, maybe gas money, maybe I put a mod on it, whatever. They'll be like, well, why'd you sell it so soon? Was there something wrong with it? One, like, who the fuck cares? It's my game. I'm selling it. I could explain what I just explained to all of you. Here's this minute description. Like, did you really want to hear all that? Did you really want to hear my reason? Probably not. I mean, you had some sort of maybe emotional attachment to this thing, which I get. But I also, as I get older, tried to detach myself from physical objects because they don't bring long-term happiness. Again, deeper conversation for another time. But I have my own struggles with stuff and with things and with addictions, honestly. And, part of me thinks that maybe me going through buying and selling so quickly is just addiction, a dopamine rush of finding a game, getting a deal, buying it. And once you get on the road, like 2.5 hours into a 5-hour drive, like, Jesus, why did I do that? And then you're driving home with it. You get home, you open it up, first couple games, like, yeah, great. And then you find that thing like, oh, shit. Maybe I don't like it as much as I thought.
What have I done?
Well, there's a glimpse into my life, a long story of why I maybe have some experience that may differ from others. But yeah, I've had people ask, give me more than just the tips and tricks of, whatever. Here's some examples they gave of what's a bargaining rule. Should you go over a certain amount? Should you go under a certain amount? And that's really a tough question to answer. But I guess I'll give my my opinion on it, which it really depends. Let's say, let's take an easy example. Let's take a somewhat recent Stern. Something that's kind of in the middle. Let's say a Deadpool Pro. Now, a Deadpool Pro, brand new, right, is going to be somewhere between, now this is something some of you may or may not know, between $6,700 and probably a little over $7,000. Why does it matter? One, it matters what your dealer is going to charge. Two, it matters if you're in the same state. Are you going to have to pay tax? Are you not? Three, will the dealer charge shipping or not? The relationship with the dealer, you name it. There's a few variables, but let's say on average, a brand new Deadpool Pro is $6,800. So someone lists a Deadpool Pro on Pinside. Let's say it's, a great home use only, 100 plays, let's say, again, plays is another matter. 100 plays, brand new, it's great. And they're charging $7,000 for it. All right. If this is about 6 months ago or in the, the depths of the dark pandemic where everything was batshit crazy, okay. But let's talk in general, non-COVID-ish, because it's never going to go back to the way it was. But let's say they have it listed for $7,000. That's too high. Yep. Can you haggle? Yeah. What would I do? I don't know. If someone had it listed for $7,000 and I really, really wanted the game, and you couldn't buy it brand new in box, let's say right now, I would probably, and this isn't insulting because it's just a weird situation, I would probably offer 6,400 and just kind of see what happens. If they write back and say, oh, that's astronomical, I paid this, and yeah, well, okay. You can take a look at the market archives on Pinside and don't look at that medium price. Never use that. I mean, use it as like a somewhat barometer, like ish, like it'll maybe at least bring you to planet Earth, but that's not what you should use. And here's another tip. When you're going to buy a game from someone and they have it listed again, let's say Deadpool, and they have it listed for $7,000, don't email them saying, well, the Pinside medium price says it. First, look at their feedback. Have they done this a while? Then don't say that shit. It's just going to piss them off, and it's rude. It's assuming that you as the buyer somehow know this better than them. I bet they've probably looked, so respect that. Another good tip on how you should haggle price. Look at the feedback of the person you're buying or selling from. If they have equal or more, assume that they're probably knowing what they're talking about. Now, you can go further and look at their list, and if it's all like LEs and it's way above MSRP, okay, they're a flipper. So assume that they're going to be looking for a higher price. If you look at them and all their like Stern Pros of the last 5 years are like $500 below MSRP, you're working with someone who's more like me, who's just like, oh, I'm just in the hobby. I don't want to lose too much money, but I get it. It's a used price. It's all that. So this Deadpool Pro example, let's say. Let's go to a very wild example right now. How about a Jurassic Park Premium? Those prices are weird right now. All right, so a brand new premium will be, again, kind of anywhere between $8,700 and like $9,400, honestly. And whoever bought it, depends on the dealer, the tax, where they bought it, all that. Let's say, though, it's just MSRP of, I'm just going to say $8,800 because I've bought them at various prices brand new. $8,800 brand new Jurassic Park Premium. You can't buy it right now, new in box if you want it, and everyone's listing it for like $10,000. It's not. I'm sorry, everyone out there who's selling and buying Jurassic Park Premium and think it's Jurassic Park. It demands this. That's emotion. That's not the market. Here's what the market is kind of around me in the Midwest. I bought a home use only, great condition, like basically brand new, $8,400. Yep, $8,400, and that to me is kind of the right price for a good premium. When I traded it out, what did I trade the value for? $8,400, because I'm not a fuck. And before that, about 6 months before that, 3 months before that, I had a Jurassic Park Premium as well. What did I sell it for? Mid-8s again. Sorry for all those out there asking for like high nines and all that. I mean, sure, I guess, but really it's lower than that. So that's a tricky one where the title is like, oh, it's Jurassic Park, so it has to be a lot. Well, okay. I mean, the market and supply will, the market will even itself out. But if the question is, how do you haggle on a tricky one like that? My first advice is if someone's asking for like $10,000 on a standard Jurassic Park premium, let's say no mods, just good to go, no valuable mods. I'll get to that in a second, but just, no mods, but great condition, perfect. And they're listing it for $10,000, I would say don't even email them. Don't message them because the right price is about $8,500-ish, maybe even a little lower. But I mean, you're really going to haggle them low. If you want to do the kind of meet in the middle, offer them 8, and that's insulting, that's too much. But if someone has it if it starts with an 8, I think you're fair to message them and tell them exactly what you think, 8,500, something like that. Now, if you really want it, fuck it, just go buy it. But those are tricky. And that's similar with Godzilla premiums. They are trickling in stock from here or there. So if you want to find it. But a premium is a little harder. So I don't have an exact, it's okay to haggle 10% or below or above. It's just not a magic number. But if you're seeing someone who's charging way more than you probably think, and you don't want to go that high, I wouldn't even engage. Or if someone has it really low, and I'm not talking like really, like right in the meat, I'm talking like really low, check their previous history and it could be sketchy. But if they have it at a price where it's like, oh my God, that seems too accurate, oftentimes, honestly, it is. If you see my prices or when I'm, trading value, it's like, oh, that seems correct. Yeah, it is. I'm not trying to justify it. I'm rare. The only time I've ever charged more than MSRP for a game was a Godzilla premium during the whole like, oh my God, the minimum was like $10,500, and I sold it for I won't even say how low, but low. So how much to haggle on a price, man? You got to be kind of intuitive and read the room, quote unquote, as much as you can. So maybe that helps, maybe that doesn't. Don't insult people, but also don't tell them you know the market better than them. But check their feedback, look at your kind of own history, and work with them if you can. I mentioned valuable mods, and that's something that is not, I wouldn't even say it's a point of contention. Here's kind of my opinion from experience of dealing with used pinball machines. Let's say it's anything before LCDs, DMD era-ish, which is my, quote, bread and butter, whatever. Here's the valuable mods for that. A color DMD, a set of, before LCD, probably mirror blades, a shaker motor. Kind of anything beyond that, it's going to be game specific. So in general, if someone's got something just full of shit, just extra plastics, all that, sure, take it or leave it. But, a color DMD should bring a good $400 to $500 value. It should to a machine. Mirror blades, sure, like $75 to $100. I think that's worth it. Shaker motor as well, roughly $100. I think those are good. Now, if we talk about a specific game, here's a couple very specific mods that do bring value. The lighted LE lights on Tron ramps on a Tron Pro. Because the premium, the ramps have the lights. That on a Tron Pro will absolutely bring value. Another for sure value bringer would be the Total Light Show mod on a Metallica Pro. Absolutely have value because that changes that game significantly. Another, this is kind of a tricky one, but the Path of the Dead mod on a Lord of the Rings oftentimes will, but it kind of depends. I've had one without, I've built my own, all that, but that one can usually bring a little money. Speaking of Lord of the Rings, the Palantir mod will also generally bring money. Beyond that, and that again, that's just my opinion on a few of those games. Mods beyond that are like, hey, you're not going to be able to charge $15,000 for Lord of the Rings because it has every figure in the world thrown in it and lighted art blades, and some of that stuff just starts to look like blech, too much, and it's too much, and you're not going to get value. But color DMD, you bet. Mirror blades, yep. Shaker motor, probably. Everything else, game specific. Once we get to the LCD era, now what mods really bring value? Now it comes less, in my opinion. I would say the only two that I really care about these days are art blades And generally, the manufacturer-specific art blades first, and then second, something like Tilt Graphics. Sometimes the Tilt Graphic ones are actually better, but good art blades, I think those should honestly just be stock going forward. It really changes the game. It's one of those mods where I've shown my wife before and after, specifically like on a Ghostbusters. She's like, "What are you doing? Why do you have the playfield on some paint cans on the ground?" And then I show her. She's like, "Oh, that wasn't there by default. It looks like it's supposed to be." I'm like, "Yeah, right." I think art blades bring a good value. Roughly $100, give or take. Even though they're about 90 to 110, it takes a little bit of work to put those in. Same with mirror blades. Same. I think those are a little easier because you're screwing them in instead of sticking them on with sticky. So blades of some sort. Shaker motor. I'm kind of, falling out of love with shaker motors personally, but that's just me. Sometimes, think of it this way. Do you think the hardware on the machine likes to you should be shaking all the time and the screws falling out and mechs? I don't know. And sometimes I don't want to feel the vibration, but I think in general, both of those hold their value. Beyond that, we don't really have colored DMDs. Okay, here's the elephant in the room. Sorry. Toppers, right? I guess, yes, those bring value. The official ones. They bring value. Here's why. Even if you don't care about them, which I generally don't, you can resell them on Pinside, usually for pretty close to the MSRP. Probably $100 off. But so you can value that pretty close, even if you don't like them. But for me personally, and like what's in the game aside from the topper, you're not really looking at colored DMDs anymore. Any backbox stuff, those have all been fixed with LEDs. Things are loaded with toys. I guess if you love the game, put a ton of mods in Godzilla, but no matter what you put in there, you probably shouldn't expect much return. And I wouldn't pay for much unless it's something that's literal value that you can sell for money. Shaker motor, art blades just bring value. Toppers, sure. My last point to all of this is the most figure it out point of this, and it's to those people out there, guys and gals, that think they're, God's gift to salesmen of, all right, you're going to want this one. This is the one to get. Cash on the glass. You'll never see something like this one. If you're in the market, this is the one. And then they have it listed like $3,000 above what it should be. Like, get out of here.
Figure it out.
You didn't just suddenly, oh, you're not going to believe it. Oh, you've been looking forever. Selling fear of missing out. Yeah, that's a quick sale. That's a tactic. Being in sales, technical sales myself, sure, you can do that. It really leaves a bad taste in people's mouths, and anyone that has any intelligence sees right through it. And usually it's not from a place of malice. You're not ill intent, but it's annoying as shit. The cash on the glass. Oh, I really don't want to sell this one. Oh, hurry up before it's gone. Or they lower the price and they put that in the bump, but the price is still like $1,000 over MSRP. I lowered it again. I'm doing you a favor. No, you're not, man. Just stop. Knock it off. Here's a suggestion for all those wondering about haggle. Don't deal with people like that. I've lowered the price. I've just done you a favor. You're an asshole. How about that? That's what's going on. Don't, pure and simple. You are selfishly looking only at your side of this. You don't care if you're taking advantage of someone because you want to make a quick buck. You don't give a shit. And that's fine. But if we can start weeding those out of kind of the community, there's a place for them. Sure. Hey, more power to you. Do your thing. But that doesn't scream a community type of person. Like, yeah, let's get that guy who's always flipping games and taking advantage of people. That's who I want to work with all the time. That feels good. Or they don't disclose something that's wrong with the game when they sell it to you. And then when you get it, they're like, oh, well, I don't see the big deal. Clearly you didn't, because you didn't tell me about it. And when I say something, you're like, oh, well, that, this is how it affects me. I don't care how it affects you. I can understand. I see how this is a one-way conversation. But you can sometimes spot that from a mile away, depending on how this person is listing games and how they're communicating it to you. So that one, these magic Pinside salesmen out there, fucking figure it out.
Figure it out. Figure it out. Figure it out.
As I like to do, I want to end this kind of little bit of anger rant with a positive thing. And the positive, I would say, is the same person that I mentioned earlier that came and picked up a Ghostbusters from me just last week, who had it completely figured out.
Figured out.
How figured out did he have it? Well, he was a recommendation from a friend of mine. He said a week ahead of time, this is when I'm going to be there. How does that work for you? Works great. He asked, cash cool, cashier's check. What? Cash will work fine. Great. All right, I'll leave at this time. I'll shoot you a text. What happened? Shot me a text when he left. Shot me a text when he was on the way. Shot me a text when he was a quick trip. And, showed up ready to go. came with his muscle. He knows what I'm talking about. She knows what I'm talking about. Hope you're enjoying your D&D. Had a great conversation. Talked about stuff for a while. He mentioned how he's been listening to Neon Dale, and honestly, man, it always feels good to hear that. And that his favorite song is Highway. Highway, drive me, four-leaf, guide me, swallow. I got a bitter pill for you. You know, cash, all hundreds, nice envelope, perfect. Took off, sent me a text later like, hey, thanks again, everything works great. You know, that always feels good to know that, you made someone happy and it's all good and it's kind of like the closure to the sale. So again, nice, easy, completely figured out.
Figured out.
Well, that's enough of me talking by myself. I am excited to have my next guest join me. This fella I will nominate as one of the nicest, if not nicest guys in pinball. The host of Just Another Pinball podcast, one of the co-hosts of Triple Drain podcast, both here on TPN, a popular streamer for the Pinball Network on Twitch, and just an overall awesome pinball guy to the community. Please help me welcome Mr. Joel Engelberth. Welcome, Joel. Thanks for joining me.
Yeah, happy to be here.
On this lovely Wednesday during work hours, or can I not say that?
I highly doubt, but that anybody that I know works. Yeah, but no, let's go for it.
At your work, at my work, listening to this podcast.
I get a lunch hour. Yeah,
yeah. We're eating lunch. We just won't actually eat. Well, podcast satiates me and pinball. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I've learned never to eat food in front of a microphone. There's. Yeah, I did. Your wife and you did that when you did your chip test, and I approve of that. That was.
Well, you're the only one. There's someone who an email that I didn't read today that did not quite approve of it. So I'm either going to double down on the chewing, or I'll basically very much point it out. Well, hey man, thanks for joining me. Let me give you, even though you're my guest and I want you to talk more than me, let me give you. I think I hinted at this via text maybe a month or so ago. Of like when I first heard you. I was, and why I will remember it is because I was on my way to get my first COVID vaccine shot, and I had to drive because remember when it was like when it finally came out, everyone was like, "Oh my god, can I get it here? Can I get it there?" Oh my god, everyone wanted. I had to drive a couple hours because like, yeah, juice me up. I'm not waiting. Like I don't want to die. So I drove up there, and it was right when I was coming back. I took like a couple year break, and I was out of the game. I had no pinball machines. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what podcasts exist anymore. I was like, what? And the first one I found was Just Another Pinball podcast.
Oh, that's awesome.
And the one I heard on the way up there was you kind of reviewing. I think you were kind of reviewing or whatever. You were talking about Turtles. You had just got it. And I was like, oh my God, there's a fucking Turtles pinball machine. Holy shit. So like you kept me company on my way to get my first COVID shot.
Wow, I'm glad that somehow my name is forever remembered as COVID shot Joel. Yeah, got it.
Well, at least the positive side of COVID.
Sure. Yeah, I'll take it.
And what struck out, or what you were talking about, was the art because you had a playfield with like the screen printing was off.
The printing, it was digitally printed and it was not good.
Yeah. And I was like, whoa, these are the problems these days. Okay, cool. But like the way, you said a common attitude about it. I don't know. Since then I had seen you on, I think streaming. And then when, you and I first kind of quote unquote talked was I was mowing the lawn and it was like a few weeks before we were going to record Cosmic, this album we did in Denver. And we were preparing so like every day, just like practicing. And you guys were like doing some Tom Talk segment. And I was literally mowing my lawn on the riding mower, and they're like, "Oh, if anyone wants to do like a little like segment," I was like, "Oh shit, okay, I got you." I stopped mowing the lawn because like, oh, why not? I'll go in because for me it's just it's just second nature to me. I went inside, recorded it in like 10 minutes, or whatever, sent it to you, and you guys were like, "Holy shit!"
Yeah, it was So Triple Drain, Travis, Tom, and I, we have a great time on that podcast, and to be honest, we have no idea if anybody listens. I mean, it's
I do.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah. And we're just joking around. And obviously Travis and I, we talk a lot, and Tom is the wise one. When Tom talks, you listen. Tom talks. He's got something to say. If he's going to say something, it's worth listening to. And we just started, I don't remember exactly who mentioned it, but they're like, we need to maybe set aside some time every episode to just let Tom talk. And there we go. So Tom talks, but I said it totally as a joke. If somebody wants to record an intro on this, let us know. And that's what you blew me away. I remember I was in the Chick-fil-A parking, like drive-through.
Nice.
And I checked my email and I was like, what? And I'm listening to this. And it was professional. It was funny. I just was expecting somebody to if anybody was going to submit something, I thought it would be just nowhere near the quality of what you sent us. And I was dying, sent it to Tom and Travis. They thought it was hilarious. And then you went on to make every other jingle that's in our podcast. So thank you very much for being a part of Triple Drain.
Oh, of course. And I wouldn't do it for just, I love the podcast. I really do. I think the mix between you three, like you said, Tom is like, when he talks, it usually means something. He doesn't always talk. And then, the banter between you and Travis is always great. And it's all good. I don't want to boost you up too much, but it is.
Thank you.
It's pretty good. Yeah. And then when you're like, oh, can you do an intro? It's like, sure. And I think it was still that night or the next day. But then when you were the triple combo, which you gotta do that more. I asked Dana. That's Dana who did the girl voice in that. My wife. I was like, hey, come in here. I didn't even tell her what it was. Like, say this thing. It's like, why would I say it? I'm like, say it into this mic. And she said it, and I played it for her later. She's like, shit, what are you doing?
No, the triple combo, I think it's my favorite jingle. It's also probably our best segment. And unfortunately, we don't do it often because we record every 2-3 weeks. And normally there's enough news to talk about that we realize, like, crap, it's been an hour and a half. It's been 2 hours. Like, we should probably wrap this up. In a triple combo where we really break down the game 3 ways. It's dedicated. Like, you're looking at a half hour, easy. And we want to do it right. We know people like it. So we know we need to do it more. We really do. It should probably be its own spinoff thing at this point. But it's the best intro. It's the best intro you've made. So, yeah, thank you very much.
I agree. It's one of the best segments as well because I remember the Mandalorian one. Again, surprise, I was mowing the lawn when I was listening to the Mandalorian one of you guys talking about it was most revealing to me when I think it was Travis and Tom talking about the way they would play it in a tournament, which to me, I'm like, I just hit the center. Mando. I mean, what else would you do in that game? And it's helped sometimes when I'm on site playing that game, which is not often. That comes up. Well, you're here today to help me review Stranger Things. But before we get to that, I want to, and everyone else wants to get to know your balls.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Let's do it. Yeah.
We're getting to know your balls. I have kind of a revolving list of questions. It's like 15 to 20, and I pick whatever. We'll see how many we get to, but some I change over time as some of these come up. And let's just get right to it. For you, do you prefer to play pinball on location or at home?
At home, 100%. I love location play. Don't get me wrong, but with two very small kids, the chances of getting out and being gone, I'd much rather just play at home when they're asleep. So gives me a chance to play whenever I want.
Those games that I've seen your background, is this like upstairs, downstairs? How do
in my basement?
Loud? Okay,
basement,
cool.
Yep.
All right, when you're playing pinball, what are you more excited to get, multi-ball or extra ball?
Extra ball. I suck. So, I need the extra balls. I look forward to the extra balls. My entire game plan when trying to get through a game is how do I get to my next extra ball? So extra ball absolutely gives me more joy than multi-ball.
All right. Do you have a favorite era of pinball?
Modern. Don't get me wrong. I enjoy a lot of the older games and I can have a lot of fun on them, but just the modern stuff, to me, I look at pinball as a very social activity, and I want to play with other people, and I know the LCD screen and the fancy light shows and all that do a much better job of drawing new people in to play than games that are just about score. So that's at least in my home collection or games that I borrow. Those games get played way more than some of the older games I had.
Yeah. Well, speaking of older games, this happens more in older games. Do you like, love, or hate fixing things on games?
I used to love it. I got into this hobby buying broken games, and that was just the only way I could afford it. Buy the broken game, and I love the ability to just come down here and tinker. And there's a point of pride. I bought an 8-ball deluxe that was literally dead, and I had to replace so much in that and to get it working. And I mean, the pride that I had at the end of having a fully working game was incredible. I really, really enjoyed that. But now on these modern games, I just want them to work. So
Yeah.
when something's broken, it's normally like, ah, crap. Now, like, is this might be outside of something that I can fix. So, I used to love it. Now I don't. I just like having games I can play.
I can relate.
Yep.
Since you mentioned you used to do that with beaters, do you have any horror stories of the secondary market? Anything that was just like, oh my god, I can't believe this happened?
Not. So my one hoard, like when I think of selling or buying games, the worst feeling I've ever had was actually selling a game, and it was when I sold my Hobbit. And I sold it. I drove 2.5 hours up. It was actually a trade. I was trading Hobbit for 3 other games.
No.
Yeah, it was a 3-for-1, and we had already loaded up all 3 games, and it was right. I mean, we had spent well over an hour or something loading up 3 games into the minivan. We had to take the head box off one, all this stuff, the back box off one. I mean, it was a whole ordeal. And then it was just at the end, like, okay, here we go. We've set up Hobbit. Let's turn it on. Let me show you a few things. I go to turn it on, and it didn't turn on. And so this feeling of like, holy crap, where do I even start on this? Because this is a newer game. It's a computer. Like, what? Am I gonna have to unload all these games? Do I like? I was just this feeling of despair.
Yeah.
And we pulled out a multimeter and started checking things. Long story short, I had forgotten that on JJP games, the cord, even though it's behind a panel that's screwed on, that the main power cord actually unplugs. And so that's all it was the main power cord wasn't fully plugged in. So, 30 minutes of troubleshooting all the complex stuff.
Yeah.
And it ended up being,
did you check if it was plugged in?
Plugged it in further and boom, fired right up. But that's like, that was, luckily every game I bought, I've been lucky that they're as described, whether good or bad. But selling was like, oh no. Like, yeah.
That probably went from like just deep depths stress to suddenly amazing relief. Oh, just plug it in.
Yes, it just okay, God, thank God. But
and a heavy ass game at that.
Yes, exactly. And the time and unloading, and it was just, and the cost behind it. But all that's the fear of the newer games is sometimes when things go wrong, it's so much easier to troubleshoot some of the older stuff. But
what is a mod that to you is valuable? If you're like a used game or you think, oh, I value that mod.
So if I was to buy a game and the mod was already on it.
Yeah.
That's a good question. Like I'm a big fan of Stern Art blades. So if they already have those installed, that's great. That's probably something I was going to install anyways. Same thing with the shaker motor. Sure. I'll take it. Be happy to do that. Pin stadiums. I like them, but I don't want to pay extra for them because I've actually made my own. So I don't know if somebody replaced, if it was an older game and they went ahead and swapped everything for LEDs, that's something I probably would have done anyways. So
there you go.
Those are all mods I respect that are common mods.
Okay. So in a game, do you value the theme or the actual gameplay more?
Wow. The longer that I've been in this hobby, 100% gameplay. When I first started, all I cared about was theme, because you have that idea of you're going to get one game. When I was first got in, I was researching Turtles, I was researching Simpsons, Batman, themes that I cared about. And the longer they've gotten played, what I've realized is I want to play my games. I don't want to just look at them. So if you only care about theme, grab a game that you think's a theme that you love and a game that you think looks pretty and just let it sit there in the corner. But to me, I want a game that keeps drawing me back in. And that's where, I've had games that are amazing themes, but the shots or the game didn't really keep me coming back. So it left.
Yeah. Speaking of, what's your favorite game right now? Could be your favorite game of all time. Could just be like right now, I love it.
My favorite game still is TNA, Total Nuclear Annihilation. It's just that game, there's just something about it. The music, it doesn't get old. It keeps drawing me back in. I love playing it with other people. Scott is continually adding to the code, so I feel like I have a game that's still being developed even, which is awesome.
And even being developed with your name in it. Is that correct?
Yes, I am super happy about that. Scott is such a nice guy, and I've met him in person a few times and talked to him, and he's been on my stream and all this fun stuff. And but yeah, I suggested something. I suggested to him that it would be awesome if when you hit the spinner, right now it counts how many overall spins you have during a game. But I suggested, hey, some of these older games have it where it'll count how many spins you get in one hit, like a spinner rip. And I told him it would be really cool if you did that in your game and had like a spinner rip champion. And long story short, he did it, and he set my name as the default high score, which is, I mean, that's
That's
the
awesome.
dude's so nice. He's such a great guy. But TNA is right now still my overall favorite game.
And I'm going to get to the last question in a second here. But speaking of TNA, you called me the other day again. Hey, you're mowing the lawn, right?
I was mowing my lawn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And actually, when you called, I don't even know if I told you this. I was in my basement has these like stairs I have to turn to get games up. It's a whole podcast I could talk about how this has to happen. But I had a Ghostbusters like balancing, and my phone was buzzing. I'm like, so you was like, oh, okay, well, pick it up. But I had my AirPods in because I was listening.
okay.
Like, so I was like balancing this Ghostbusters when I was like, hello.
Yeah.
But you called to talk about TNA and your love for it and all this. But I almost bought one last night, and the only reason I didn't, and I still plan to, was that I was at a work event, and past COVID, for those who work in software or whatever, it's just the same old story now that COVID's kind of lightening up. You go into the office sometimes, it's kind of weird. You go there and then you just join a Zoom meeting anyway. It's like, what?
Yeah.
So we go there yesterday, and if I could make it to this guy's house by 4 p.m., I could do it, but he had some plans at night. And at work, I don't know about everyone else out there, but I don't always love the like after work dinner stuff or the like, so I often, because I'm like an hour and a half away from one of our sister offices, I often will like dip out at like 3 to miss traffic, and so I had to play it by ear. But like if the team I managed was like only some of them there, and I could get out early, I was going to be like, oh, I got to get home early and white lie to go pick up TNA. That's what I was going to do. But like actually, I had a good time in seeing people, and I was like, I can't make it. So I almost had one, and we could have almost talked about it today, but I don't quite.
Hey, you'll get one. Yeah, no, you're on your last podcast. I can tell you're right on the edge. You're debating it, and we talk pros and cons, and
you're pushing me over the edge, man.
Yeah, I'm very curious. I'm like, you're going to know in a day or two whether or not that game's already ready to be sold or you're hooked.
Yeah,
and I'm excited to see that journey for you. It may be very short lived, or you may be locked in. I don't know, but I love it. I love the game. I sold it once myself and immediately regretted it, and it's the only game I've ever sold that I bought back, and that kind of told me that. I mean, I know that's common for you.
For me, like, whoa, what is that like? Yeah.
But that was to me like, okay, I know that feeling before, and yeah, if I had to weed it down to like 1 or 2 games, that would be the last to go, probably.
Okay. So this last question, no matter how it's answered, is not a knock against any designer, any distributor, anything. It's just it's opinion, right? So if TNA is your favorite game, what is your least favorite game?
Oh Lord. Least favorite well, if I lean into like the triple drated and the hate mail I've gotten for saying it, I mean Halloween, man, I really have struggled with that game. I've tried it, and I will continue to try it anytime I see it, and I can't experience the game if I can't hit the shots, and the middle shot is the thing that's rejecting me over and over again. So I don't know, that would probably be one of them. But yeah, that's I'm trying to think. I don't know. There was a few, like, no offense, but like Hot Wheels. I borrowed Hot Wheels and it just didn't click with me. That was one game that Zach with Flipping Out let me borrow. And when he said he was going to come pick it up, I was like, thank God. I was ready. I was ready for it to be gone. And that game is very score based. A lot of the appeal that bring people back in is keeping your RPMs up and keep going. And I don't care. Like, I just want progress. I just want to see more of the game and experience more moments. And there was a lot I liked about the game, but that was one game that I was like, you can have it. Take it back. I'm ready for the next. Yeah.
That's the most, I think, cut to the chase comment. When you start feeling about a game, I don't care. It's like you're mentally checking out. Like with certain shots, like especially score, where like there's certain games where like if there's so many hurry ups, for me personally, every shot's a hurry up. Like after one, I'm like, so what? Like I don't, for me, I like Jurassic Park, where like I mean, there's the missile shot, but other than that and some of the time stuff, that game to me just kind of screams like, yeah, the modes, are hard. You can take your time, but you can take your time. You don't have to always hit the rescues. Like, all right, you have 10 seconds. You better hurry up and hit it. Like, yeah, you'll get a little bonus for doing faster, but I like that in that game.
I totally get. I mean, at the end of the day, these are just toys, and no one's making you play them. And the only exception to that is like, I do stream. I stream, and so I tell myself, all right, I'm going to play this game for 2+ hours. And when you're an hour or even 45 minutes in, and you're like, oh, geez, I got an hour more. I got to play this thing or grind away at this thing. And I started to feel that with Toy Story, but to be honest, now that Toy Story's gone, like I do miss parts of it. There are parts of that game that I really enjoyed, and if I see one on location, I will happily go play a few games on it. So it's such a weird thing that we do. That's for sure. Yeah,
it's surprisingly one game that we have on location, Toy Story, and that's where I play it. And I'm, it's like really good candy. Oh, I love it, but I don't want to eat it long term. But every time I go there, I at least play a game or two.
That Duke Kaboom ramp, man, it'll pull you back in.
I love it.
Feels good.
At my location, right next to it is Rush. So I play Rush, and Rush it's like you're playing a game when you're playing Rush. And like, oh, all right, I need a little palate cleanse. I'll go play Toy Story and whatever. But hey, let's get on to what we're going to talk about today. It's a very interesting game, I should say, just in the overall market, in the pantheon of pinball. There's just it's a strange, quote unquote, story to how this game went from straight trash to one of the most coveted games of the last 5 years, and that's Stern's Stranger Things. I knew about the game, after it came out, and the same thing when it first came out. Everyone's like, the rules are weird. It's not much here. It's really clunky. The plunge is lame. The Gorgon shot, is that what it's called? What's this?
Demogorgon.
Demogorgon. Yeah, the Demogorgon shot. It never works. It's totally busted. There's all the negatives, And I remember playing it on location at Tilt Pinball in Minneapolis, and my first thoughts were, I still think the plunge, and we'll get to that in a bit, isn't the greatest, but man, as soon as that ramp came down and the light started hitting, I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
Oh boy, here's pinball. This is what it feels like. I remember when I'm doing like Battle of the Power or Addams Family back in the day. We're like, what? You do this? So my first impression were just the mood, And I ended up getting a premium right when it was like in between people hating it and people like, oh wait, it's great. So it was like normal price for like a month, maybe a month. I think I traded a Attack from Mars remake plus a bunch of money for it with a guy in Green Bay. Got home, and I'll talk about it in a second, but that was my story. I had a premium for a short while. You had a Pro, is that correct?
Yeah, Zach had let me borrow a Pro, and so I had one early on when they were out and available. It was actually, so what had happened was I had ordered a Turtles from him. And this is back when like Turtles had just come out. This is back when people kind of expected to get the game when they ordered it,
Yeah.
So Turtles had just come out. I placed an order with Zach for it. And he's like, hey, there's some delays. Unfortunately, you're not going to get one of the first orders. And I was like, okay, well, I don't have anything to stream then. He goes, well, I actually there was a tournament in Kentucky where he gave them a Stranger Things to play for the tournament. And he goes, I actually let one of the guys in the tournament take that home. He goes, if you want to go pick it up, you can. I was like, okay. So I drove down to Kentucky and picked this game up.
How
just
long
to
of a
be
drive
able
is
to
that
stream
for you?
it.
Sorry,
It was like 2 hours. It wasn't bad.
Not bad.
But I went and picked this game up and just to have something to stream until I had Turtles. And that's what kind of started the streaming relationship that I have with Zach. But so I was just like, whatever. It was the first time I had a game that wasn't mine with no preconceived notion of like, I need to like this or not, just because I knew I was essentially just holding on to it. And my first few games on the game, hated it. Absolutely didn't enjoy it at all. If I would have been on location, I probably would have moved on to the next game. But because I knew I was going to be playing it for a while, I started to dive in further. And that's when I really started to enjoy the game. Like that game, the longer I had it, the more and more I really fell in love with that game.
Well, let's talk about gameplay in just a second. The overall theme, which I know last time I was talking about, I think anyone who does like theme, it's kind of like flip a coin for some people because either people love Star Wars, they love Star Trek, or they love Lord of the Rings, or they like cars, or whatever. But I think, kind of in the, the zeitgeist again of just pop culture at the time, and still to this day, because season 5 kind of brought back people's love of this franchise. I guess for me personally, whatever subjective, I would give it a solid 7. If you rank it against Star Wars, it's like, well, it's not Star Wars, but you rank it against like Walking Dead these days, it's a little higher. So just overall, the theme where in the pinball history, horror / dark, moody themes are popular. Dracula, Twilight Zone, Addams Family. It's a mood to a pinball machine that's kind of popular. So I'll give it a 7. How about you?
No, I think that's actually a really good number. I think currently, right now, yes, Stranger Things is still very hip and cool. We watched it, we loved the show. So it was something I mean, I recognized it, and I would say when I had the game, the majority of my friends and family Stranger Things, they knew exactly what it was and were curious to see what the game was. But yeah, the theme of the game, they definitely went more kind of spooky and eerie than like lighthearted, fun Goonies type, like let's really embrace the childhood, joy of the show. So that was my initial thing of like, this game's pretty dark. Like this game is actually kind of darker or scary. I was worried, at my time, my 2-year-old daughter at the time, I was like, I don't want her to be scared of this game and the artwork. And so, but yes, theme wise, I agree. I think 7 is a good number for that. I'll give you that.
What I think most people care about, and including you, because gameplay versus theme. I'll let you start on this gameplay. What are your thoughts on the overall gameplay? Can you give it a number? What do you love? What do you not love?
Gameplay, that game really grew on me. Not only just as the more I experienced it, but it's just the code. I mean, I got it where there was actual code updates like throughout the 2 or 3 months I had. So the game just kept evolving more. Overall gameplay, I would say I actually enjoy the way it shoots. Initially, the reason I was frustrated early on is because you got this big thing in the middle that's yelling at you to hit it in the face. And the reality is that's an incredibly dangerous shot. So if that's all you're focused on is to just keep bashing that guy, you're going to hate the game because you're going to drain so much. Yeah. So when you start kind of ignoring him and saving him for certain moments where it's safe to hit the Demogorgon and you start focusing on the modes, then you actually realize like, oh, these modes are a lot of fun. There are some, switch hit modes and different modes where, all the shots are lit, like Find Barb, all the shots are lit and you're trying to guess which shot it is. And I just love that the modes actually have character to them. And, it's like, oh no, I'm doing that mode and that's not the mode I wanted to do. So let's get this multi-ball going so I can try to get through it. And I would say the overall layout, I love the left orbit that feeds into the right ramp. I enjoyed that a lot. The right orbit that goes back into the pops, not a very satisfying shot, but it's I always looked at that as like a safe shot. Like, okay, let me take a breath. Let me just kick the ball back there and just take a breath for a second. Or if you need that to qualify a mode or something, it's like, well, that's safe. Let me go for that. The burn it back loop is fast. Like that's a cool shot. That's kind of unique the way that goes around. I will say the saucer on the left is kind of meh. Like,
yeah. And that's giving it a lot of credit. Meh.
Yeah, it's not exciting. There are times when you need to hit it, if you want to get your multiplier going or stuff. It's like, okay, good. But never it doesn't feel good. The right ramp was it felt good when I hit it, but that was the ramp that really, there were so many modes or situations where it's like, crap, like that's the ramp I have to hit. And at least on the one I had, I couldn't backhand it. So it had to be across the playfield. It was a more dangerous shot. But overall, I didn't think it felt clunky. I thought it was a very enjoyable layout. And the deeper you get into the game, and we'll talk more about code, but I don't know. I really enjoyed it. That game, I really had a lot of highs and lows with that game and adrenaline pumping at moments, which was awesome. So if I had to give it a score, I'd probably give it, I don't know, an 8. I mean, okay. It was really, really enjoyable.
From what you're saying, I'm hearing 8. I would echo everything you said, and my only, not to beat a horse to death, my only complaint, I guess, on the premium was the TK lock, and it's one of those, that like I didn't believe it because a lot of times you hear like, that ramp's always garbage or whatever it may be. In this game, this one's usually kind of true. Like, it does work if the shot's perfect. It does, but not every shot is perfect. And
Yeah.
like when it's to lock balls and
Yeah.
it's how you get your main multi-ball, you need that to work. So even though I think most people's, premium want, including myself, it's the projector more than anything. And we'll get to visuals in a second. But for me, that telekinesis lock, like when it worked, it was so awesome. But I had to disable it. And even when I sold it, I was like, hey, it works, man, if you kind of want it to. But
Yeah.
if you want to play the game and not just like show someone, hey, let me hit this 10 times, it'll work 3 out of 10 times. Like you just got to disable it. So I think that's kind of, I didn't like that. I also didn't like the plunge into drop targets, similar to Star Wars. I don't like plunges that just bunk into something. It just doesn't feel, it's not a kinetic satisfaction. So while what I loved disabling the TK lock, both ramps I thought were super smooth. What you mentioned about the orbits, great. Like all the shots in general, if you want to hit them, you have a really good percentage chance of hitting them. And that,
well, to talk about the lock, so I had the Pro, and so the lock on the Pro was a safe shot for me. You could cradle up on the left flipper and backhand it, and it was almost guaranteed. And that's something that I've realized talking more to other premium or LE owners, that's not a safe shot. So like to get into multi-ball or to get that ball back there to lock, like to me, it was like, oh, thank goodness. That's all I have to hit. Just get to the left flipper, backhand, boom, I'm safe. Well, they are like, not at all. Like if you want to get that TK lock, you almost have to hit it from the right flipper. It's got to be clean. It's got to have enough power to get up there.
Yep.
And just to say the Pro versus the premium, I had a Pro stock Stranger Things, and I really enjoyed it. And it wasn't until I gave it back did I have a chance to play Zach's LE, and his had the UV light kit, the projector, and it was just like it blew my mind. Like that the atmosphere that creates. Like I had a great time on a stock bare bones version, and that's what I told myself. I was like, if I ever get a Stranger Things again, I've got to go premium or LE. Like I've got to get the rest of that experience, at least for me. But it is a shame that yes, the left ramp is kind of a negative with the premium and LE.
Very similar to Walking Dead, that left ramp. They always gotta fuck with it. All right. So rules. What do you think?
The rules.
Oh wait, sorry.
Yeah,
I should say my number.
Yeah.
I'll give gameplay a 7. So I agree with you. It's almost like the premium shoots worse than the Pro. For what it's worth, if you have that TK lock. So I'm just gonna say 7. Otherwise, I would say 8. All right, go ahead. Rules.
Yeah. Rules. The rules grew on me a lot, and part of it's because it is linear, but yet you do have options. So some of these games where you can do all the things all the time, I struggle with that. Even with video games, like I prefer platformers. I prefer like Super Mario or something where it gives give me direction. Compared to like a Grand Theft Auto where you just explore the whole world, do whatever you want. And that's what I liked about Stranger Things was I understood you have 12 modes. Everyone's very unique. You can control which mode you're going to pick. So what do you want to do? Oh, I don't want that mode. Kick it back in the pops. Try to get another mode. And then what I really liked about it was the progression. So I really liked that knowing, all right, I got to get through 3 modes and then I have an extra ball. And then if I get through my 4th mode, then I'm in, total isolation.
Yep.
And then 6 modes as an extra ball. And then 8 modes. Like I always felt like things were just right around the corner. Like I can just keep chugging along and I can get to that next step. And I don't know, it was a code that drew me in. And because the game is so eerie and the atmosphere, I don't know, that was a game that I could really get immersed in. So I really would put it, it's probably, I don't know. I don't care about scoring. That's the thing. I don't care about score at all.
Yeah.
So if I just look at it as an experience, I'd probably put it pretty high. I'd probably put it at an 8, maybe even a 9. I really enjoyed the code. I'm gonna
put you at an 8.5.
Oh, I didn't know we could do decimals. Let's do it.
Why not?
Yeah.
Hey,
let's go.
Okay. 8.5. Rules on me. Again, you said it as well as I could, if not better. I think the straightforwardness is a very big boon to the game. My favorite is one of those games where I hit a mode, and you said they don't do anything. Not that they don't do anything light, but when I hit the bullshit mode for the first time, I was laughing out loud to myself like a freak in the entryway of my house when I had it just set up, and I was like, "Oh my god!" And I tried to tell Dana you got to come see this. That was humorous, and there's not many games, especially pinball games, that really put a smile on my face. and this is one of those games that does, and I'll talk about visuals, which does in a second as well. But I think the rules are exactly as in depth as most pinball games should be, to where there's a lot, but there's not too much to where like you need to get a rule book out, you need to memorize everything. It's like it's pretty straightforward. You get you get extra balls, like you said, at a good kind of rate.
Yep.
And it has enough strange modes, enough strange modes. Like, oh, that's really sweet. And when the UV mode comes in and out, and I think let's just overall, even though you said you had stock, let's just assume that this is a full package game we're kind of talking about with the UV kit. And just for my own segue, I'm going to say rules is 9. I think they're fantastic. And when you have everything, including all the visuals, so I'm just going to go right into visuals of the projector is huge.
Yep.
I think, yes, they should have done a more gray material for the actual screen, but as like an audiovisual nerd, which probably a lot of us are who care about home theater and all that, the best contrast and colors to get in a projector screen is white, but you want that to be in a light controlled room. You can't really control lights in a pinball machine that well, so I get why they had to do it. It's the most pop, but if you can control the lights in the room and get that a gray material, that's my only, nerding out con to the game. But the UV kit, it has to be there. You got to have it for the full experience if you really want it. When it turns on, it's one of those smile things. You're like,
oh yeah,
this is a game where the premium itself, or that should be an LE price, just because there's no other game that does something like this. You got the UV light kit, you got the projector, the Demogorgon shakes. It's such a mood. It's such a, you want to show everyone.
Yeah.
Anyone who doesn't like pinball, loves pinball, like, look at this, and it'll blow their mind. So I don't think if there is a better category that this could easily be a 10 for me. Visuals for me are a 10. What do you think?
I think you're 100% right. When I even just the Pro, I enjoyed the visuals. I love that they have the movie clips. I think the animations, everything they have at the LCD screen, I have no complaints. The visuals that they have going on, even the artwork, I don't mind. I mean, it is Photoshop, but I like the color choices. Like, it is a scarier looking game. At least I know some of the cabinet art. But I think it's great. But you're right. The visuals where they go way overboard is that projector. Once I saw that, we all want pinball machines that aren't static, that change, that as the game evolves, or there's a diverter, so now when I hit this, it does something different, or I'm in another play field to experience something different. Well, the projector, nothing's physically changing, but visually they make the modes visually feel different, look different. The fact that the spinner, the graphics on that, and the graphics on the drop targets are changing.
Yes.
Not to mention video clips on the. I mean, it's amazing. It's amazing what they did with the projector. I would love for them to bring that into other games. And then the UV light kit, the fact that was printed on every playfield and no one knew about it until months
so cool.
later. I mean, what a great Easter egg to have hidden in there. And yeah, it changes once again. The lights go dim, and the playfield looks completely different. You're right. If a game deserves a 10, I'd put this right there. Yeah.
Yeah, and you made a good point of like not only the projector on the big screen, but the fact that they did it on the little drop targets and the little
and the ramps. Yeah,
like I don't know whoever did that, and I should just look it up on Pinside and tell me. But like, who specifically's job's like, all right, we got all the art, we got all the assets in the LCD screen. All right, now what you need to do is take this projector,
projection mapping,
projection map onto ramps, these curved surfaces. And that isn't like celebrated as this like huge win where people are like, oh, but the Demogorgon. So like fuck off. Like, come on. What other game does that? Honestly.
Yeah. Or they're like, oh, you can't see it. It's too bright. It's like, then dim the lights. Like, it's such a great game.
Yeah, man.
Yeah,
for sure. Well, I'm glad you agree with the 10. I think if any game deserves it, it's this. Audio. What do you think?
Now, audio, this is the weakest part, in my opinion. I mean, they got music, and I will tell you, when I had it, there was a mod. It was like a Cleveland mod or something like that, where it would change out a lot of the music that they made up for music of the time, which was pretty cool. I really enjoyed that, but that's not official. So it's just, but the unfortunately, Hopper, I love the character Hopper, but his call outs are not good. They are so low energy.
They are in fact bad.
They are so low energy, and that was just that's really kind of one of the only negatives I have on the game is just the audio package. In my mind, could be a lot better, or the call outs. It's like outlane, ball save, lit. It's like, great, thanks, man.
Yeah.
Like, sorry
Yeah.
to bother you.
He's reading
just
a grocery list.
yeah. So it's an unfortunate thing that it just now the quality of pinball these days, you got to have everything. You got to have everything to really blow you away. And that the audio package is the one area. Luckily, the Cleveland mod really helps. It adds a lot more energy there with some of the musical changes that they added into it. But the call outs drag it down. So, I mean, if I have to focus just on that category, I'd probably give it like a 6 maybe.
Okay.
There are immersive moments though. Like, don't get me wrong. Like
Yep.
total annihilation or total. It's not annihilation. Isolation. Total isolation or something like that is very quiet and will draw you in. And I play with headphones, so they do a lot right. So maybe that's hard. Maybe I'll give it a 7. I'll give it a 7. Yeah.
You know, I was going to do the same. I'm also giving it a 7. And the only reason I'm doing it to play, like, I guess maybe devil's advocate's not the right term, but I only had the Cleveland mod on mine.
Okay.
So, but again, that only affects the music. I don't think they tweaked the callouts because the same callouts were just like, "Oh, welcome to this game. Look at what you just did." Aside from the bullshit mode, which again, the audio was the thing that gave me a smile, and his kind of drab like bullshit was actually kind of charming for that mode. But the audio again, I mean, that's like rating like classic 80s songs. Like some of them are great, but I'm saying a 7 for that reason, and because the Demogorgon, just the kind of creature sounds, and when you go into the UV mode, it's like that really drew me in, and it kind of just the sound effects of when you were hitting, like, is it the drop targets? They're kind of like clinky.
Oh yeah,
you know what I'm talking about?
It is entirely the callouts. Like everything else, I am totally fine with everything else they had in that game. It is just the callouts that really drag it down.
Yep. Well, if we take our numbers and add them up, I'm at an 80. You're at a 79. We're pretty much in line, like a B minus. Now, again, I'm like you. The numbers don't really matter.
Yeah.
So what I care about most is just kind of my overall opinion on the game. I want you to start. Like, if you had to say, someone who's new to pinball said, "What do you think of this game, Stranger Things? Is this a average, above average, FA? What is your personal?"
Oh man, I would say it's above average. Like, it truly, that is a game that I would genuinely consider getting back into the house. But the problem is it has to be a premium.
Yes.
And nobody has them, and they're crazy expensive. And it's just but it is such a unique experience. That is something that if we have a arcade bar downtown, Tappers, they have like 25 games. And if I knew I could only have a friend of mine play like 2 games while we were there, I would take them to Stranger Things because they have a premium, and it's such a unique experience, unlike any other game. And it's so easy to tell, like, hit the drop targets, that ramp's going to come down, and then see if you can bash the guy in the mouth. Like, that's what really drew my friends and family in, is it was such an obvious target, and that's all they wanted to do was see if they could hit him in the mouth, and they were locked in. So I absolutely think it's an above average game. It bums me out that Stern doesn't make them anymore. I wish they would, just to bring the price down.
Oh yeah.
But it has one of the best overall atmospheric experiences that you can really get in pinball, in my opinion. So the fact you're telling me it's an 80 in my mind should be higher. Absolutely should be higher than that. Yeah,
I agree. I would put it in the, like, everything is at least above average, and then you add in the light and the overall just like experience, and it's way above average. And I agree, they need to remake this just to bring the price down, because I would also, no surprise, in my bring it back in my collection. But this was one where, just like we've said a million times, anyone who's not in pinball will be like, "Whoa, I did not know you could even do this." And when you're bringing up the Demogorgon mouth thing, that's one thing they did different here that they didn't have in Attack from Mars or Medieval Madness. We're like, you're bashing the center target. But even if you want to go further, if you can snipe even in the center of this, you get an even, I'll say bonus, but you get to complete this mode even faster.
Oh, yeah.
Which the castle and the UFO, you just, you hit it and that's it. And if you have the game set up right, and those, again, who out there saying, "Oh, you can never set it up right. You can. If you just get it level, like, you can hit that mouth every time. Well, if you really try. Unlike the TK lock, which, whatever.
Yeah, that's... maybe that would be even better if they remade it, if they vaulted it and somehow improved the design of that to make it 100%. I mean, I would be super tempted not to buy that new in box. Like, it is one of the games I miss. I genuinely miss that I had when I borrowed it, which is great. I mean, it was literally my first day on it. I was like, get it out of here. And yet it became as
Yeah.
the more I played it, and then now that I've seen the projector and the UV kit, like, yeah, I would love to own that game again.
The thing I'll leave us on the Stranger Things is when I finally got rid of it. It wasn't because I didn't like it or anything. It was just, sometimes I go through these phases of I got to take a break from pinball because it's, heavily monetary investment. Sometimes, whatever. And so this was when I didn't put on Pinside. I just text someone like, hey, whatever. Okay, I'll take it, immediately. But the person that come and got it, they came and tested out. Great. I knew him anyways. And we got it out to their van, lifted it up, and no, he did it by himself. And he dropped it. So it, yeah.
No.
Like of any game to like just drop and like land. And I was like, he already paid it. And he's cool. He's like, oh, no problem. But I was like, my God, you don't want to drop that game, man.
Yeah.
But he dropped it. But that's how it left my house. Maybe that's not the way. Next time it shouldn't leave that way.
Now the TK lock works every time.
Yeah.
Right.
That's all it takes. Just drop it.
Yeah. Just
Drop
one
kick
major adjustment and boom, it works.
Yeah. Sledgehammer it or drop it off of a van. Well, thanks for reviewing this with me. I just wanted to say thanks for being such a helping member of the Pinball Network. To me personally, even before I joined, I would shoot you texts of like, hey, when you're doing this podcast thing, what do you, you're always helpful. You're always responding. You didn't have to, you don't owe me anything, and I just want to say thanks. Like everything I've seen, how you communicate with people in the hobby, whether it be in Discord or whether it be on Twitch, streaming, anything you do, like you're just, you're priceless in this community, man. You got to keep doing what you're doing. I hear plenty of compliments from other people and they're like, oh, I love Pinball Party, but I also love Triple Drain. It's always followed up with that or just another pinball podcast where it's almost like, I think they want to start with that and then say Pinball Party, but
no, man. That's very kind. Thank you. Yeah. I don't have any reason to be doing what I'm doing. I don't have any experience in this. I think it's funny that people care about my opinion. They probably don't, but I'm sharing it anyways. I love it. I love this community. There's so many great people in this community. And, I started everything that I do, podcasting and streaming, because of COVID. I just wanted to be with people, and streaming and podcasting has been an incredible outlet to do that. And I've met some amazing people, and there are people that helped me early on so why not? And that's the thing about the pinball community. If you're listening, just get involved. You don't necessarily have to make content, but reach out, make some friends. Everybody that does this wants to do it with other people. So I'm always happy to answer an email or a text or a message on Facebook. And I love talking pinball and helping people out however I can. So more than happy to do it.
It shows, man, your enthusiasm, just even verbally, like you could tell you really love it. So it's great that you're doing this. You guys got a Triple Drain coming out? What, next week? This week?
I don't know. Actually, we try to react. We try to react to news, and there hasn't been any. So I'm glad we didn't wait for the Bond 60th release, which we hoped was last week. So we actually had one last week. I don't know. We might record one before Thanksgiving. Those two, they play so much competitive pinball, trying to fit it into their schedule on how much travel and what they do. Hopefully, we try to stick to like a 2-3 week schedule, somewhere around there. And I'm trying to line up an interview to do another Pinball podcast. Actually with George Gomez. And I've done one with him before, but I told myself I'm not going to interview him until I've played Bond, and I haven't had a chance to play it yet. So once I have a chance to play it and experience the shots, hopefully I can line one up with him and interview him again, which should be a good time. So hopefully more stuff coming soon.
So until we hear just another pinball podcast and Triple Drain, where else can people find you?
Well, I stream on the Pinball Network every Wednesday night from 10 to midnight Eastern time, and then every other Thursday on the Flippin' Out stream, same thing, 10 to midnight. So there's plenty of that. And then like tonight, it's a Wednesday tonight, I'll be streaming, but we'll be recording one of the TP and After Hours streams, and those are always on YouTube after the fact. So a lot of times, if you can't catch it live, feel free to catch that afterwards, and plenty of fun pinball discussion there. So should be a good time.
And I do catch it afterwards. And honestly, this is what I do. I get the YouTube link, I put it into MP3 converter, and then I import it into my podcast, and I listen to it as a podcast. So
we've had people say that. Is there a way that you could make it a podcast, and maybe we just need to save you a step and do that for you?
Or next time I do this, I'll just do the stream and give it to Zach or whatever. Here, put it up there.
There we go.
Yeah. Don't even have to edit it. It's already good to go. Yeah.
I do very little editing, even on our Triple Drain podcast. It's besides just kind of making sure levels sound good. It's, I don't know, try to be, in my view, it's just be real and authentic and just let it all out, hang out. And maybe I also don't have nearly the editing skills that you do. So I just let it roll.
It's more from neuroticism than anything. But yeah, no, doing this so much. But hey, man, thanks for joining me. Thanks for reviewing Stranger Things. I guess let's get back to work if we have to. But until next time, thanks again, man.
I appreciate it.
All right, talk to you later.
See ya.
You got a voice inside of you.
So awesome to have Joel on the show. Thanks again for joining. Hopefully we'll talk again on air in the future. That's all she wrote. Thanks for all the listener emails. Thanks for listening to me talk about secondary market stuff. I look forward to all the opinions on that shit. But yeah, please feel free to shoot me an email at pinballpartypodcast@gmail.com or tell me your opinion verbally at our voicemail 262-528-6625. And be sure to join us next time on the Pinball Party. I'm Jason. We'll see you later.
It's not all about falling over, feeling colder, time well spent there with him. It's now all about getting older and seeing over, finding life there again. It's not all about falling.
I do it during work, as you'd expect.
Yeah.
You know?
The only appropriate time to edit a podcast.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.